500 shares of stock, and she hasn't sold a single share, and they are now worth $1 million.
Nike. Immediately, you'll be thinking of that multi-billion sports enterprise that's also the most popular sportswear company in the world. Of course, it could also be the goddess of victory, but the sports brand is more prominent in your thoughts. We're all familiar with the swoosh logo and several athletes who became the face of the brand through the years that sold out millions of shoes, clothing, accessories, and several pieces of equipment for fitness. Not only is it engineered for fitness and comfort, but it's also fashionable as well, which explains why it's sought after by the public. But are you aware of how this big shot company came to be? Who was the man responsible for Nike's launch to fame? You're in luck, since today we'll be sharing with you the man behind the success of Nike, so stay tuned for more. Enter Philip H. Knight. The man responsible for the creation of the world's leading sports apparel was Philip H. Knight. He came up with the idea of using Japanese labor to manufacture cheaper and better quality running shoes to overturn how Adidas and Puma hold the American shoe market at the time. He used this idea for his term paper while attending his master's degree at Stanford University, of which he was also one of the distance runners in university. Despite not owning any Japanese shoes, nor having any connection with them, Knight still had a firm grip on the idea and decided to push through with it upon graduation and flew to Japan as a tourist in 1962, the founding of the Blue Ribbon Sports. Upon arriving in Japan, he went directly to Onitsuka Tiger Company, the manufacturer behind the Adidas knockoffs that were sold in Japan at the time. He met with the Tiger executives and introduced himself as the head of Blue Ribbon Sports Company, a newly built company in his head, which he used to convince the executives to send him samples of their shoes, with the promise of placing orders as soon as his partners examined the imported goods. Bill Bowerman enters the game. A new partnership is born. With a newfound company in his hands, Knight decided to borrow money from his father to pay for the samples sent. He received a total of 12 pairs on the first shipment and began selling the shoes out the back of his car at every running track he could turn to, making him the first exclusive distributor of Onitsuka Tiger in America. He also sent a few samples to his former university coach at the University of Oregon, Bill Bowerman. At the time, Bowerman was ahead of his game, being one of the most sought-after coaches in America, and was also put in charge of the training of several Olympic athletes. Upon receiving Knight's package containing the Onitsuka shoes, he fell in love with them and expressed his wish to partner with Knight, which the latter agreed to easily. Come January 1964, both Knight and Bowerman pitched in $500 for the company for their first bulk order, 300 pairs of shoes that were worth $3.33 per pair. Although Knight had the core idea behind BRS, it would not be as popular as it is if it wasn't for Bowerman's curious mind. You see, for every shipment that came, he'd cut open a few pairs to see how they were made, and he'd make a few tweaks here and there to improve the design, such as the idea of using lightweight material and adding a cushion to the shoes. He'd input his markups on the shoe and send them over to Japan to be redesigned according to what he wrote down, effectively redesigning Onitsuka's shoes. Their first shipment came through by April 1964, and thanks to Bowerman's vast connections, their first batch sold out by July of the same year. During their first year, the company already sold $8,000 worth of shoes, and with that much money in the bank, Knight decided to hire a few salesmen to help out BRS. By 1965, their revenue had increased to $20,000, and the following year, they opened their first retail outlet located in Santa Monica. By then, one of the best-selling shoes the company was selling was the Cortez, which was designed and modified according to Bowerman's input and was popularized during the 1968 Olympics held in Mexico. The following year, the company sold $300,000 worth of running shoes with a high demand for the Cortez. With such high demand, the company was struggling to meet this demand, since with every shipment they ordered sold out fast. Onitsuka kept sending their supplies at the same glacial pace. As it turned out, Onitsuka had been prioritizing the demand in Japan before sending whatever remained to America. The partners agreed that in order to expand, they needed to be more than just distributors. With Bowerman's design of Cortez, they knew they were able to establish their own shoes, since their contact in Onitsuka would be ending soon in 1972, right before the next Olympics to be held in Munich. Bowerman was also the genius behind the shoe's unique feature, the waffle sole, that offered better traction with less weight. How Nike came to be. In 1971, Knight started working on rebranding BRS, and thanks to the suggestion of their first employee, Jeff Johnson, Knight started calling the company Nike, after the Greek goddess of victory. The goddess Nike was an inspiration for the warriors of Greece, and upon winning a war, they used to say Nike to each each other. Swoosh, the creation of the logo. Already decided on the name, Nike then thought that it needed a logo. He went over to Portland State University and approached Carolyn Davidson. At the time, Davidson was still a graphic student and provided Knight with several options for the logo. In the end, Knight settled for the swoosh. It's the sound people hear when something zooms past them in a quick manner. The swoosh stands for fast sound, speed, and motion, which explains why the custom logo shows an arch of movement. Some experts believe that the inspiration for the logo came from the wings of the goddess Nike, which brought motivation and morale to the warriors who were headed to the battlefield. Davidson was paid $35 for the design of the logo. Just do it, rebranding BRS and introducing Nike to the world. With a new name and logo in the company, Knight began reaching out to numerous contractors in Japan, securing a network of subcontractors across the country. Finally, he was in control of the production, and the company could expand as they wished. Knight and Bowerman launched Nike in 1972 and were ahead of their game, renaming the company Nike Inc. in 1978 and going public 2 years later in 1980. Knight's strategy tapped on several athletes to endorse his shoes and let his sales force sell the product. Luck was on his side, since it coincided with the Olympic track being held in Eugene, Oregon, and Bowerman serving as the coach of the American Olympic team. Knight made several of the top finishers wear his product, so when their wins were televised, so were their shoes they were wearing. One of the most visible runners to wear Nike was American record holder Steve Prefontaine, a cocky anti-establishment type. Prefontaine became the first of a team of edgy athletes Knight recruited to endorse his shoes. As expected, their sales skyrocketed with athletes endorsing the product, like the time John McEnroe, known for being tennis bad boy, started wearing Nike 3/4 top shoes after he hurt his ankle. Thanks to that incident, sales of that style leaped from 10,000 pairs to over 1 million. And the sudden popularity of jogging combined with Nike's canny marketing created a demand where none existed before. By the 1980s, Nike diversified its product through several acquisitions, namely several shoe companies like Cole Haan, which was acquired in 1988 but sold in 2012. The company's branding was strengthened upon the introduction of its slogan, "Just Do It." During an advertising agency meeting, the slogan was coined by Dan Weidman, the founder of the Weidman Kennedy Agency back in 1998. Weidman credits the inspiration for his slogan to Gary Gilmore's last words, "Let's do it." The addition of the slogan further increased the company's sales in North America, which dominated the sports shoe business from 18% to 43% from 1988 to 1998. With esteemed basketball player Michael Jordan partnering with Nike as one of its endorsers, the records have reached their all-time high. Thanks to the release of the Air Jordan line paired with the commercial of Michael Jordan's high-flying slam-dunking antics, the signature gaudy black and red sneakers became a chart topper, selling more than 100 million worth in the first year alone. By 1986, total sales hit 1 billion, and Nike surpassed Adidas to become the #1 shoe manufacturer worldwide. Although quite successful, they did hit quite a few bumps in the road, especially in the late 1980s, wherein Knight failed to see the prospect of investing in the growing market of aerobic shoes and instead focused on hardcore athletes. Reebok pitched in for the growing trend of aerobic shoes, overturning Nike in its top spot. When Nike's sales dropped to 18% from 1986 to 87, they came up with Nike Air, a multi-purpose shoe with an air cushion in the sole. The commercial produced to unveil the new line featured the Beatles song Revolution. Nike Air may or may not have been a revolution in footwear, but it certainly revived sales. Nike regained the lead from Reebok in 1990 and has remained there ever since. Now aged 82, Phil Knight is known as one of the master marketers of the 20th and 21st century and is praised for his tactic of partnering with athletes as an endorsement. He recruited several well-known athletes under his brand, such as Russell Wilson, Tiger Woods, Russell Westbrook, Mike Trout, and Kylian Mbappé, to name a few. When asked by a reporter how he achieved such great wealth and fame, in a veiled reference to Reebok Tornado that forced him to rethink his marketing strategy, Knight replied, "How did John Kennedy become a war hero? They sunk his boat." Phil Knight retired as chairman in June 2016 after 52 years at the company. So that's a wrap with today's content. If you'd like more of these videos, please click like and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching.